It's the agents of Sigmar.
And we're back here, and we're almost back at the beginning again.
Yeah,
really.
I'm feeling deja vu.
Deja vu. Yes, this all started with a little game called Warhammer: Age of Sigmar, which Pete bested me into playing, and we've kind of fallen back into it from there, and so we've ended up here, which is iOS version 2. DOS. Soul Wars. I mean, to be honest, if you're watching this video, you've already seen countless, but a number of unboxings and kind of looks at the game. So we're not quite sure what we can add, but we'll try and add our usual zest and verve and terrible puns.
Yes, our own AOS slant on AOS.
Yes, exactly. Oh, nice.
You like that?
That was good. So
interestingly, though, we never did do the original AOS unboxing. You got it as part of Geek Dad, didn't you?
I got it as part of Geek Dad, but after it had come out, and because I actually wrote a piece of kind of saying.
Is it called A Foolish New World?
It was called A Foolish New World, yes, kind of saying, is this the last roll of the dice? And actually, having seen this, I almost feel like it was the last roll of the dice. But so I wasn't necessarily going to say right now, but I kind of feel like that was kind of like, well, we're going to change this, we're going to see what happens. We're not going to put too much into it. So the rules were very thin, there was very little lore, and there was very little kind of...
Everything was free.
Yeah, you just played a game, and I think if it hadn't taken off, then I think they might have canned it.
Yeah, well, it was getting that. That's why they did it, wasn't it? Because Warhammer was doing so badly. But AOS has
been like
reinvigorated it all. Lightning bolts.
Yes,
thunderbolts and lightning. Very, very frightening.
Of the game.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because I'm buying the game not always the best, but I know I'm very much in the minority of people who talk about Warhammer like that. I'm a Shadespire fan.
Very much a Shadespire.
And now, as I haven't played a lot of Shadespire, this game actually feels more unwieldy than it did before I played Shadespire.
I think that, yes, I mean, we'll get into the boxing in a moment. I do have mixed feelings on AOS. I don't think that AOS 2 Salt War is as accessible as the first one, and I know a lot of people out there will already say you don't need all the additions, you don't need all the expansions, you can just get your army book, you can get the free rules, and you can play a game. But you kind of want all the extras as well, don't you? I mean, there's the new magic box coming out, there's the general's handbooks and all that kind of. You kind of want it all. And so, I don't know. Anyway, we'll see. But
yeah, we'll perhaps do that. We'll talk about that a little bit in the wash. I have a few thoughts on that too. But we're going to get into the box now. I've been on a few internet video training days since we did our last unboxing, Pete. So I'm going to try and bring that to the fore.
Okay.
So this is Age of Sigmar Soul Wars version 2, and it's a tabletop game. Yep.
Camera's there.
Okay. No. I'm sure. Okay, we'll try again.
Try again.
I've been watching. This is what you have to do. I've seen the professionals.
He's been watching a couple of some of the high rolling professionals doing this. So
this is definitely the way to go. Right? Are you ready?
Are you sure that's what you? Okay. Right.
Shall we open this up?
Yeah. Go on.
Okay. So we're going to open this up. It's a sleeve box, and
dude.
Yeah.
It's there. It's just
if anybody can explain to me why on that video she doesn't look into the camera.
Why would you not?
Maybe we're old, maybe that's how the kids do.
Maybe they found it too engaging.
I just spent my whole time saying I'm over here, which is normally what happens when I get confronted with a woman. but anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, it's obviously one of those things on the internet, and
so
we're not.
We don't really understand it, but if you do, then please put it in the comments below. Anyway, so I have taken the sleeve off, as you can see. Just let it go. That's quite nice. I actually think it's slightly more irritating myself.
It's another thing to have to take off.
And you can't
what's wrong with just a box?
Now what do I do with this? Because I can't put things on it. I squash it. So I think it's nice, but it's slightly annoying.
It's getting an It's an to start with. And there was obviously a box. Oh no, there wasn't actually a lid. See, I like a lid.
Yeah, there's no lid. There is a separate little box.
They did this with the 40k.
They did, and I haven't opened that yet. Yeah. So that's got the minis in there.
Rattly.
But I haven't opened it very much.
Rattly.
And then
Rattly.
In here we have the core rulebook.
That looks a lot thicker.
Is a massive tome. I can't remember how big. I should have put it down. I can't remember how big the AOS rulebook. I mean, that kind of shows you we haven't played AOS for a while, but also how little you need the book to play. Because I couldn't even tell you what it was like.
Never really used it.
But there's a big core rulebook which we'll come on to.
That's as big as the 40k rulebook. There must be a lot of lore in there.
There's an awful lot of lore. And then we have some cards, and these still have the
I can't tear it. You've got to slide it off very carefully, so you can then slide it back on again very carefully. Because if you're a complete OCD, oh my god, why you managed? Oh, I like these. See, they did these before in AOS the first version for some of the different armies, and double pager. Double pager.
They look like a double
pager. These ones are much better. They've got the picture. So you can immediately look, which model have I got? I don't know what these models are. I don't know.
These are more reminiscent of
Warhammer Quest.
Yes, Warhammer Quest. Thank you. Somewhere. How did you know I was going to say it?
I just get it's because we're in sync, man. I like that. But I like these ones because they did them before, but they had like a massive piece of paper, and then only the top bit had any text in. But they've actually made these to size. Everything is in there, and like you've got there's a big double spread one there for you to be able to for all the rules because he's got a flipping metric ton of extra stuff.
He's got magic things. So these cards aren't available for everything else. These cards are only available for things in this box.
Well,
right?
only for the things in this box. So far. I'd bet money on the fact GW will bring. I mean, they were doing it before. They were bringing out packs these.
Yes, they had cards. But they are the same size. Those cards. Or
I don't actually know.
I feel like I might be getting confused with the 40k ones, which are card size, aren't they? They're the cards that I had are card size.
Yes,
so they were different. They weren't the character.
They weren't. So, but these are nice, and I like they've got all the different stats on. This is one thing I did like about AOS over Warhammer of old, in that you don't need the whole book to be able to see what does the Guardian of Souls, what are all his rules. I can see them.
Well, generally, I think the mechanic is neater, and I prefer the mechanics of Age of Sigmar to the old Warhammer.
Yeah, the cut down stats, the cut down weapons. I was somebody who complained very loudly when I first saw that I just have to roll a 4+ to hit, and then I have to roll a 3+ to win. But what if it's a goblin attacking a bloodthirst? That's just madness. But it grew on me quite quickly, like the warts, and yeah, it works.
Right, so that's the cards, which we spent too long talking about.
Far too long.
There is a Start Here book, which basically has a little bit of collect, build, paint, play.
Everyone's an exclamation mark. You can't just collect it, you've got to collect it!
Exactly, and the core book is here with some nice pictures. It tells you probably that you don't need to read the core book just yet. And you've got a little bit about what the Age of Sigmar is. Kind of feel like if you don't know that by the time you bought this box, you might be in for a shock. You've got Stormcast Eternals, a little bit on them. And I'm guessing the Legions of Death.
That's the guess. It's quite important.
And then start playing. So it tells you what you need. So you need your dice, your range ruler, your war scroll cards, and the core rules. Nice little segue there into the core rules.
And these are the ones you can download
those.
Free.
Yeah.
These are all put in a nice, obviously nice shiny package.
And it does include the first battle plan on the back, which is the First Blood battle plan, which is kind of like the easy basic battle plan for playing. So you can pretty much play straight out of the box.
And the core rules, I was a little bit horrified to see it was 20 pages long and not 4, because the original set had 4. But whilst this is 20, it's mostly because it has lots of pictures.
That is kind of typified the new kind of Games Workshop way, isn't it? There's loads of pictures.
But I like that.
That's good. It's good.
I'm less a words person.
So with these, and the core rules and the
there's also this one
here you can play straight away. Yeah, that is the Battle of Glimmer's Forge, which is kind of a bit about Glimmer's Forge, the city where there's going to be this battle, and it talks about the
Sacrosanct Chamber,
and the new Stormcast model, so the Evocators and the Sequitors, and the Castigators and the Celestar Ballisters.
And then lots of pictures.
So it does again. It's very. There's not actually rules there for playing the game.
There isn't. This is all descriptions
of the cards. But these are the people on these cards. And then it goes to the Nighthawks, Knights of Sharks, something or other. Peak Shadow to Critters. I can't read it.
Fluff.
And is there anything in the back? What's that there?
Oh, there's a bit in the back.
Pitch battle profiles.
So this gives you the points, which is the thing that you want if you want a pitched battle, because as everybody knows, AOS has various ways to play, and the one that most people probably want to play most often is pitched battle, which is the most fair way people might look at it. It's the kind of way that you play tournaments, so you have 1,000 points or whatever.
So the 3 ways to play aren't in these. This is just the game. The 3 ways to play are in the core rules.
They are.
But it's basically a narrative game, bring what you like to the table games, and a match game,
and then match games. Yes, and I think that you've got the first 2 are very similar in that in one you kind of agree up front. Okay, let's have a last stand of one guy versus 1,000.
Yeah.
But the second one, where you bring what you like to the table, could be the same thing, because you might just put one model on and be done. So they're very similar.
And we have the How to Put Your Models Together book here.
Flipping heck, that's pages and pages.
I mean, the instructions have got a lot better than they used to be.
It helps that all these models are push fit.
They're all push fit, are they?
Yeah,
that is good. That's good stuff. The push fit models are good.
And the models themselves are just. I mean, I said this when 40k came out, and we did that, and I say it every time they bring out some new models. They're just getting so good.
The models are incredible. We'll have a look at the models in a minute, although you've seen them all anyway elsewhere. But then we have this little please spend more money, so you can buy some Sequitors if you need to cut something in the garden, some Castigators, some Glaive Wraith Stalkers, and some Mirmorn Banshees.
Yum, yum, yum.
You can even buy the core rulebook. I don't know why you do that. You've got that here. But you can buy the Battle Tomes or A Realm of Battle, the Blasted Halahart, which is scenery. So that's kind of like a little add-on sale thing there. And you've got
a little sample chapter from a Josh Reynolds book.
Do a ruler. Throw that away. And somewhere in here,
Nice little flexible ruler.
we've got bases for big matches. We've got some blue dice, which would be terrible if you were running a green screen game. You couldn't see them.
Yeah.
And some transfer sheet, which I think the other Stormcast never used to have transfers. I don't think
they did.
They were moulded on the hammers and things. They might be moulded on here, but there's some transfers there, which is, I've not seen that. And a really nice sort of inlay card for the box. So the box is beautifully presented. I do like that.
One thing they do good, and always is box packaging.
Design aesthetic is excellent.
Very similar to 40k, the box layout there. So
should we have a quick look at the
have a little
minis? So the minis come in their own separate little box there.
a nice little picture on the front there.
Picture of a chicken and guy in armour.
That's obviously a turkey.
Oh yes, you're right.
Battle turkey.
Battle turkey, yes. And some dead guys. Who are upset.
Spooky boys versus gold.
I'm not quite
blobs.
sure what the reason for this fighting is.
Nagash wants to take over everything.
Okay,
pretty much.
He's a bit peed off with Sigmar. Sigmar, they were allies at one point, and now they're not. Is that right?
Yes, that's how it all ended
today.
before. But Nagash being Nagash, he's never really liked Sigmar. They've never really got on.
So bases, actually, I just noticed for those of you watching at home, or not for watching, for those who notice these things, the bases actually I've never seen anything quite like this. They're round. They're kind of they've got little hex pegs holes in them, which is interesting. I've never encountered that before for GW base. So they're obviously new. Base types, very minor detail, and then here I have the minis, lots of grey plastics. They haven't gone for the Shade Spire and some of the basic 40k sets that were in specific colours.
One of the versions of AOS when they repackaged it was gold and red as well. I believe,
okay. Well, there was a cool.
so.
There was a cool. Yes. So they have gone for grey plastic, which is neither here nor there. Really, but it's an interesting choice.
One spray can later, and you're done.
Yeah,
so.
And so they are. I mean, you've seen the painted jobs. You've seen the models online.
These are
mini war game. We've been playing with them.
Fantastic.
But they are lovely. I mean, Pete is a death player, as you know.
These look a lot bigger than the pictures make out.
That's what happens when you go and meet them.
Very rarely.
It's never the same.
Very rarely is it bigger in real life, though.
Exactly. Well, that's true.
I've used the macro function, but it's. I mean, I think the problem is because all the models are bigger, and they're all next to each other. They all look the same size. So you kind of think
it's
they're
quite hard to
smaller,
tell when they're on the sprue as well, isn't it? Because they bulk out when they.
But these look huge. I mean, some of these look. I mean,
but they also
on the size of
because they really. With the plastic now, lots of thin kind of
wispy bits all coming off.
Build them up. These Stormcast are amazing. They've got much more detail in the clothing. They're not basically fantasy Space Marines anymore. They have clothing on, which is quite good. And
it's always a plus.
and there are women.
Oh yeah,
there are women, which is a big step up, and I think a good one. I know people don't always
and
agree
it's
with
not
that.
metal bikinis.
It's not metal bikinis. No, it's good
because the front of the core book, is a Valkyrie-esque kind of, and whilst she's got boob armour on, it's not
too bad.
It's not triple F
the
jobs.
men's armour isn't that different to that.
No,
and I really like that. The kind of putting women at the centre of the game is good.
Or at least just acknowledging that women exist.
Yes,
it's always a good start.
yeah, that is true. That's the models. So the models are lovely.
They are just freaking amazing.
They will take a long time to put together.
But they're push fit.
That's true.
So
just cut them out.
Clip and stick together. But there is a lot of clipping together. But they look amazing. Yeah. I mean, I saw the models online and they look good. But I'm just going to go. They are just, they're flipping amazing, those. They are beautiful. Every time GW brings something
Probably
new
didn't hear
out.
me say that. I just said talk amongst yourself while Pete goes on about the models.
I did hear that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fine. Oh, look, this is a very similar picture to the
Oh, yeah.
to the 40k one.
Looks a bit like Sauron as
Right
well.
at the front there. You can't see that. There you go, right at the front.
There you go.
There we go, yeah. So that's kind of like the half and half face. They obviously like that imagery. Sigmar on one side and General Grievous on the other.
I think it looks more like Sauron.
Oh, yeah, I can see the Sauron, yeah. Sauron, Grievous, one of the two. No, the imagery here is very much Games Workshop's.
It's definitely their own. And there's Sigmar.
Sigmar. And so basically, how much this book is rules?
Let's have a look. Wow. Is that actually rules where you started
is
there?
Kind of rule stuff, and that is not raw stuff. I don't know if you can see that, but basically the fluff is 218 pages, which is very similar to the to the 40k one, and this stuff is kind of rules-ish.
I mean, you have got the core rules, what you've already got a book for, is in here as well.
So we'll go over that. I mean, in a second, I think. If you're watching,
if you're still there,
yes.
I do like that. Whilst a lot of the obviously the 4 pictures in here are of the new models, the new Spooky Boys and the new Golden Boys, that later on there's still a lot of pictures of all the old models as well. GW haven't completely ignored them.
Yeah, the lore. I was having a quick read through the lore today, and it's broken down into the Age of Myth, which is what happened after the old game kind of finished the end times into the Age of Myth. So it talks you basically how the world evolved, and there's all this stuff about the demon incursions and all this stuff. It's all quite interesting. It's quite overblown. It's not my cup of tea, but it is quite interesting. There's obviously clearly some thought gone into this as to how the world ended up like it.
They have had a bit of a tendency to sort of go, and then there was a bigger explosion.
Well, it is a bit like that. There was a really big fight, and so lost, and then they regrouped, and there was an even bigger fight. It is a little bit like that.
And then a lot of people died again, and then there was an even
So you've basically got how all that works, and then how the different races kind of evolved. So the Deepkin and the Elves.
I like the fact they've got the Deepkin in here. Yeah. So I mean, they kind of had to, but
all that kind of stuff in here, and then it moves into. Kind of how the Stormcast were born, and then into the mortal realms. So that you've got in the middle of this kind of universe, if you like, you've got the 8-way gate or whatever it's called, and then you've got the things around it. And so it has. Oh, there's a map there.
Nice little map.
And there you go. So you can see that. So that's quite nice. I think you can see that on the Age of Sigmar website. There is a whole new website. Age of Sigmar now has its own website.
Which is nice. I like the way they've got some of the realms sort of orbit each other and all that kind of stuff. And, and they've fleshed it out. They
really have given it a lot of thought. Again, it's not quite my cup of tea, but it is. They put an awful lot of effort and work into it.
It is very much high fantasy.
Yes,
very high. It is like high fantasy on speed in some places. It's to the extreme. But I guess they want to give themselves space.
Yeah, and they have kind of got several realms are fleshed out more than others actually. So this Akshi is fleshed out, and then so the first one's fleshed out, and they tell you all about the history about
Akshi's the one of fire.
What happened during the Age of Myth and the Age of Chaos and the Age of Sigmar, and that does that for Gairan, is it the Realm of Life, which is kind of taken over by Nagash, wasn't it?
No, Realm of Life was attacked by Nurgle.
Nurgle. Same. Sorry, Nurgle. I meant Nurgle. And again, you've got the Age of Myth and the Age of Chaos and the Age of Sigmar, and then
the
Shaiish.
Really big fights.
Shaiish is kind of the same, but then when you get to,
I do like the fact that there is one realm here called Shaman. Sorry. Move on now.
I don't know what that is. So, but the later levels like Gur, the realm of beasts, and I think even Azir, the realm of heavens, has very little. Only has a couple of pages.
Oh yeah.
Doesn't have very much.
You think the realm of heavens would have a lot more?
Well,
considering that's like Sigmar's home.
Yeah, but I suppose not much is going to happen there because that's
true.
Like, that's Sigmar's.
If Chaos turn up at all, he's going to be like, no,
exactly. So I guess the other beginning of the book is where most of the battles are going to take place.
Makes sense.
And they've tried to flesh it out a bit, and they're trying to have people who actually live there rather than just this kind of unending misery.
But they've they've gone around that by basically saying, oh yeah, if you're in the middle of the realm, then it's like normal life being the old world, and you could live your whole life in that little central zone. But if you go out to the edges, that's where it all gets crazy. But you could travel your entire life and not get from one edge to the other. And you're like, all right, I get it, it's big, but it's that there's an even bigger thing.
It does talk about the culture and stuff. It's building up around it, which is quite nice.
Which is nice.
That was definitely lacking in the original game, I think.
Yes.
And then you've got the factions, what Pete was referring to earlier. So you've got the Forces of Order, and it basically talks about the Stormcast, and then it goes on to the Deepkin, the Daughters of Cain, and the Caradon Overlords, and it has a little bit about all of those. And then you start to get pictures of the other models from the other armies in here as well. So we have a nice double spread of some Seraphon and some Fire Slayers and some Caradon Dwarfs and Lizard Men, depending on how you.
Lizard Men and Dwarf, Fire Slayer and Slayers.
Yeah. And then the Forces of Chaos are the same. Slaves to Darkness, Khorne.
Goes for all the different
Siege,
gods.
And so we've been there. Slaanesh.
Interesting that Slaanesh is still featured.
Yeah,
he's not gone completely yet.
No, he's still in there. He's only got a single page. And Skaven have got a bit more. Creatures of Chaos, Brayherds and Warherds.
Beastmen, all that kind of jazz.
Yeah, and then look at that.
Another big page there with lots of chaosy
You'll
stuff.
never get to paint your figures.
This is the setup
genius.
This is the setup you'll never have.
Yeah. So that's pretty amazing. So as you can see, the production values in the book are incredible, and the amount of information is pretty stunning.
Now that picture reminds me. There was the whole Blight Wars that came out last year. What was that? When that was just there was a box. The Blight Wars. Never mind. Anyway, moving on. Something else.
I do feel a little bit like Games Workshop. All right, I've got this ball rolling, and they're going to keep rolling that ball, and people will buy it. So who can blame?
I mean they just seem to have a lot of things going on, and they're throwing out loads of stuff, and they're doing all the right things. They're engaging everybody, and they're doing brilliant stuff, brilliant models, and all the rest of it. But you just find after a while, you're just sitting there thinking, I can't keep up.
No, I mean, it's certainly his parents have got no chance of keeping up with them. I mean, play.
We run the channel, and we spend most of our time playing Shadespire. Even if we didn't spend a lot of time playing Shadespire, I don't know how much time I'd have for
building and painting.
For building and painting. Let alone playing, yeah, exactly. I mean, we it's hard, man. It's real hard. So if anybody out there wants to, be a very generous donor and give us $1 million or $2 million, we'll do this full time. No? Okay.
So then you go through, and then you finally get to some rules for the battles in the mortal realms on page 200 and what did I say it was? 220 thereabouts.
220 some.
Yeah. It's got the core rules at the beginning, which is the same as in that little pamphlet, and then it goes on to.
That's all the core rules as well.
Yeah, this is what
explains the war scroll setup to you, how battalions and work and realms as well. A little bit on.
And then it goes. These aren't in the so battalions, the realm of battle, and the allegiance abilities that goes into those. They're not in the core rules. No. So these are like extra little things that you can have to give more flavour to your game. And then it goes on to, so there's got all the allegiance abilities, chaos.
These things definitely aren't in the download or anything
as like each allegiance, so chaos, death, order has its own little tricks and things you can do to.
A few extra little bonuses to give to your general and things like that.
And then it's got the realm to battle, and I believe this is new. So in the old, and this they're still in the rule. Terrain could have its own things that it could do. So if you had a forest, it could be a spooky forest and do things, or
there's the exact name for it as well. Spooky, scary forest.
Very hot forest or something.
Yeah, and it could give you bonuses,
and bonuses, and negatives, and things depending on what you play.
Yeah.
And then they've gone almost got like a whole extra bit, and actually each realm has its own sort of things, and you can have realmscape features. So each battle can have. So for example,
you can fight in the realms.
In Shaiish, you could roll a 3 at the beginning, and the winds of death. At the start of your hero phase, roll a dice with a 6+, pick an enemy unit, and then roll a dice for each model in it. For each 5+, that unit suffers 1 mortal wound. So it's kind of extra flavour.
You also get extra commands, and extra an extra magic spell and stuff like that as well. So it adds another little bit of.
We're playing in this realm today. So
yes.
The battle. So I mean that's quite nice. Quite like that.
I do find it's another thing to remember though.
Yeah, well, I was going to come on to that, but yes, absolutely right. There is. So much to remember, and then there's endless spells, which is another new thing, I believe. The endless spells in here, there's not very much in here. There's a whole box of endless spells which we don't.
So in here, you've only got the Balewind Vortex, which was one of the that came out with the original game. Obviously, that was in AOS 1 as well, and before that, and so that's the only endless spell you have in here. But it describes stuff about removing endless spells and the models and all that kind of stuff. And then there's each endless spell has its own war scroll, effectively,
So
that
just one
tells you all the things it does.
vortex here, and then it goes into open play games, which is that's the bring what you like. So these are the different types of play. So you've got your open play games, and then your battle plan.
Pictures of real people. Who are the real people? Have they put anybody on there? Oh, they've put Peachy in there.
Okay.
Can't see Duncan though anywhere. He must be hiding under the table. He's probably painting.
Coalition of Death. So these are different war plans, are they?
Yeah, so you've got the different battle layouts, so deployment zones and all that kind of stuff.
Would you like to join the Coalition of Death? Actually, no, I'm busy this week.
I'm kind of doing my hair tonight.
Yeah. Race to Destruction. Again, I wouldn't take part in that race.
No. There is no winner there.
We've got Sports Day this week. Next week, if it's the race of destruction, I'm going to tell my children not to go into it.
It's okay to come last in that race.
Changing priorities, the ladder of command.
Then you've got all the ladder campaign
like campaign stuff, isn't it? Yes. So there is the kind of things. So you don't actually need this to play the game. You just really need the core rules, and then your war scrolls for your army. And I'm guessing most of the war scrolls are still available for free, are they?
I believe everything's still downloadable.
So you can play
the
game with the core rules, which are available for free, and the
models you've got already.
And the models you've got already. Which kind of leads me on to, I think there's very much more to say about this. It's kind of like just different ways you can play the game and a bit about match play at the end. It kind of leads me on to who is this game for? Who is this box for? Because it's not cheap. It's £95. Probably more than that US dollars, probably getting up to 120 US or something.
130 or something like that, yeah.
And so who is it for? Because it's lovely, it's really nice. If you've got money to burn, you will buy this. But if you're a new player and you've never played it before, then you might consider you would buy it.
Well, it gives you two armies.
You've got two armies to play on a very small scale. Now, the problem I have with Warhammer is and 40k to a certain extent as well, is the sheer scale of what's available.
Yeah.
But if you're a new player like I am to both games, I've already got very old legacy stuff for Warhammer
from the 80s.
It's kind of like it's kind of to get up to the level of where people who've been playing the game a lot have got all this stuff. To get up to that, it seems like a huge curve for me to get up there. But I quite like the fact you get your two armies. So if I wanted to play this with my kids, we've got two armies. As long as they both don't want to play the same one, which of course they will, you can play a game and you can have some games and you can enjoy yourself. You can play the open
and the
play.
forces you get in the box aren't small by any stretch. It's not like the old days where you'd get a couple of units of very basic troops.
Yes.
You do get some nice stuff in these boxes. So
you do. So if you're brand new, then I think this is worth getting into, unless you particularly have a hankering for, like, if you know you're not going to play Nine Horts or don't want to play Stormcast, there probably isn't any point in buying it, really.
No, I would go for the separate book in that situation. I would certainly just buy the core book.
Would you buy this?
Yeah, I think I would.
Okay.
I think I would, just for the extra missions you get and stuff.
Yeah,
and
you do get the missions.
The fluff is nice to actually, now that they start to flesh it out, it's nice to actually read up on what all that was.
But do you get missions in the General's Handbook?
You do.
Because there's also something called the General's Handbook, which is an annual publication which has all the points in for all the armies.
And they get modified on an annual basis in case somebody realises, well, actually this unit needs to be more expensive or that one needs to be cheaper.
So if you are new to this, you have the core rules, which doesn't really have anything about the armies in it particularly, apart from the very specific models that are in the game. There are some army books which are probably half the size of this. Are they softback or hardback?
I think I don't know.
Doesn't matter, but they have all the details for the army you want to play. So if you buy the Caradon,
including the points of
Caradon Overlords and or Stormcast, you buy a specific book and that tells you what all the army, all the units you can play are. And how much points they are to play.
Because you've got their special rules and all that.
Yeah, those points, because these things are kind of tested, but they're never, once they actually hit the ground running, people start to exploit the loopholes and things, they have to change things. So those points can change in the General's Handbook. So there is an argument to say you could just buy the General's Handbook. But again, you don't get all of the special...
You won't get all your special rules.
You don't get all the special rules.
Army-specific stuff.
That are in the rule book. So you could say, well, don't buy this, just buy your army-specific book if you know you don't want to play Stormcast or Night Hordes.
Yeah, you could do that. And then you could buy the General's Handbook as well. And then you've got a lot less stuff to shell out on straight away. But why would you want these models?
Why wouldn't you want them? Well, that's kind of it. Because I kind of feel like last year I absolutely fell in love with the basic set of Warhammer 40,000. And I think that's because I knew nothing about the game.
Yeah.
So I kind of felt like, I want this, and I really like the models, and now we can play Primaris versus Nurgle, and we can have a really great game.
Yeah.
And this time, because I know a bit more about it, I kind of think, well, why would you buy this? So I think I'm actually looking at it from almost the wrong side for this. I think if you're an absolute beginner, I think this is great because these models are really inspiring.
Models are superb. You get a good size army for each, and I think whilst the scale of the number of models you can get is daunting, really. You don't. The one plus side of AOS and AOS 2 is that you can actually play with a much smaller army.
Yes.
Than old-fashioned Warhammer, where you had to have at least 2 units and this and that, and there were so many things in the way, which meant you had to have a good, fairly sized army before you could play even a remotely half decent game. But the good thing about AOS 2 is you can have just a couple of units and you can play a game. You can actually get cracking straight away with a couple of dozen models tops.
So I'd be inclined to say, if you're a real fervent fan, you're going to buy it anyway. If you're strapped for cash and you've already got your army, and you don't want to play 9 Halls and you don't want to play Stormcast, they're probably, or even if you only want to play one of them, there probably is no point in buying this. Would you say that, Pete? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think you might be. Yeah, that could be,
because you already know how to play the game, and the lore you can pick up, and actually doesn't stop you from playing the game anyway if you don't know it. So I kind of feel like actually, if you want to build an army, then you might be better just buying the plastic rather than buying the box.
If you really want to, you could just buy the core book as well.
You can do that. I don't know what the prices of that is. Perhaps Pete will flash that up. So I love the box. I'm slightly wondering who it's for. That's my reservation. And then so we did talk about earlier, and we kind of really wrap this up. We've been going on for hours now. Is that the game that for me gets complicated quickly? We were talking about that.
Yes.
There's lots of extra things in here. So you've got the extra realm things, you've got the scenery things, you've got all the buffs and everything.
We've never played a game with the scenery rules.
No.
And I watch a lot of battle reports, and most of them don't use the scenery rules either. Or if they do, they mostly forget them.
Yeah, and that's the problem for me. I mean, we have enough trouble playing Shadespire 45 minutes. We still forget when we've got Cleave. When we can use Knockback, or we've just added +1 to our guy.
Yep.
I find both 40k and this, there's so many permutations and combinations and buffs and debuffs and spell buffs and proximity buffs and now realm buffs.
Now, when AOS first came out, it was actually better because all the armies were so basic. There were none of these massive overarching things. But now, like with Nagash, you've got with Undead, you've got the graveyards, which can do various special things of rezzing people and all that kind of stuff, and all that kind of thing. So you've got lots of army-specific stuff as well as the unit-specific stuff and the spell-specific stuff and the realm-specific stuff. And it's just
yes, because the new permanent spells do it as well, don't they?
Yeah.
So I kind of feel like I had enough trouble as it was. There's a slight reservation I have over the game, which is not really pertinent to the box, but it's just my own personal feeling from the games we've played, that it can be tough to keep track of that and a bit confusing. But you don't have to worry about that too much with the starter set, because I suppose you learn slowly.
Yes, and the starter set doesn't have an army-specific set of stuff to get used to.
No.
You just got all your units that you have to pick up instead. And the models are spectacular.
Yes.
Can't say anything about that.
So all in all, another brilliant box from Games Workshop.
It is a very nice
looks
box.
amazing, and there's a lot of work gone into it.
The pretty angry-looking Valkyrie on the front cover as well.
The lore, which I know some people really like, and I think it's a good thing because the lore was lacking.
The lore was lacking for,
and it does seem to be a little bit more thought out. I'd say it's not quite to my taste, but I know a lot of people out there do love it, so I'm not going to say that it's rubbish.
Low fantasy, grim and gritty kind of stuff, and this is much more.
Yeah.
And then there was a bigger battle.
Yeah, I suppose I think it's really hard to convincingly build to build worlds from the ground up, and for me it's not quite there. But
they had 30 years before to get Warhammer done.
Exactly,
so,
and to be honest, the old world itself, it's just I suppose I created stories in the old world. Maybe that's the difference for me, and obviously I haven't had time to do that because I haven't had time to play. I created stories in the old world, particularly with the role play coming out soon, Wolfrup, and the Age of Sigmar role playing game coming out. It'd be interesting to see. Maybe if I played that, maybe I start to feel like
you'll feel home again.
Yeah, maybe I would.
You never know,
because I really like some of the realms like Hammerhal and stuff. That's pretty cool. So let's give it time.
We shall see.
Yeah, I think we're rambling on too long now. It's nearly 12 o'clock here in the UK. We are, as I kind of joked about some of the more professional videos about out there, so do go and watch those because they are very clean cut and they have lovely studios. Pete will flash up a couple of pictures now of our studio, which is how awesome it is. We don't have shelves full of all lovely models and books in the background as our backdrop. We just have...
It depends if I put a green screen up. We can have whatever we like.
We have a green screen, maybe, or crumpled. We either have a green screen or a crumpled sheet. Time will tell.
One of the two.
And but yeah, we do love doing this. I hope you've enjoyed that. We've kind of rambled on a little bit, for which I apologise.
That's why you came here.
If you do want to play Age of Sigmar, what I will say, if you do think you might want to play Age of Sigmar, if you've never played before, go down to your local Games Workshop and give it a try, because they are so much better at that now. Inviting people in and welcoming them.
You don't walk into Games Workshop these days and get a lot of very sweaty, hairy people just staring at you.
Well, you do kind of, but they are much more welcoming to sweaty, hairy people.
Well, the staff are a little more.
And so do go in and try it out. I think that's probably the best way, because it is a really fun game, and so at a small level, I personally struggle to make the transition to a bigger game.
I think that's more just our lack of time available to be able to commit to it.
I think you're probably right.
But you never know. Maybe this time next year we'll be millionaires. We'll be playing it full time.
Maybe so. If our T-shirts selling goes well and our Patreon goes well, I'll link below. So until then, we are Robin and Pete, and we are the Agents of Sigmar, or as Pete likes to put it,
the Agents of Sigmar.
Until next time, bye.